real. Let me just introduce myself. I am Piyush Goyal. I am Director Pragatipath, and Pragatipath is almost 2-decade-old institution, which is now taking care of students online. Though for 14-15 years we ran it offline in Gurgaon. And here is my friend Shipra, who is director and founder of Aspire Big, an educational consultancy. She is running this more than 15 years now, and she has helped more than 3,000 students to achieve their target of the best universities of the world. She has made it a big success, placing them in UK, USA, Australia, Singapore, Canada, and many more. So I'll not take much of your time. I'll hand over the session to Shipra, and the format of the session is that Shipra will be brief about all the requirements, everything required for overseas studies, that too for your dream destinations, definitely Ivy Leagues and top universities of the world. And if something is left, I'll be asking a few questions to Shipra. And in the end, this will be an open house, open platform for each one of you to have your queries. Meanwhile, if you want to ask something, chat box is open. You can please keep posting. Over to you, Shipra. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyushi. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for taking out this time to, come online and maybe just hear me. So I hope I'm able to add some value and, give you some kind of an insight and hopefully answer some questions as well. So I have this very small presentation, which I'll probably run through. I won't take too much time. I won't spend too much time on it, just maybe 5-10 minutes at the most. And then, as Piyushi mentioned, we'll directly jump into Q&A so that we're able to get more and more questions answered that way. So just 1 minute, let me just... So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Shipra, it is visible.
Okay, wonderful. Second. Okay, great. So if you've been wondering whether study abroad is the right option for you, it is definitely, it comes with its benefits. While it might not be for everyone, it is definitely, an option for quite a few students, and it is the right option for quite a few students. You can assess whether it's the right option for you on the basis of few of these points. So overseas universities provide quality education. They're always ahead in their research. They're always, creating new courses which are in demand, and they always keep students on their toes. And it's always their quality assessment of education of their courses is extremely great. And most of these universities, a lot of these universities, actually not most, a lot of these universities are ranked amongst top universities in the world. So, and they offer a number of courses. You'll find more than 1,000 courses in most of these universities, and you can pick up a course, any kind of course that you might be wondering about, and these universities will have a course to specialize in. The approach that these universities take in teaching is very practical. So you will also find some courses where there are no exams. There will be there's an ongoing assessment based on assignments, based on seminars, based on group work, and so on. And universities also encourage students to, do a lot of self-study, indulge in research, and so on. Most international destinations also allow international students to work part-time, and this part-time can be anything from 20 hours per week to during semester time, and it can go up to 40 hours of full-time during summer break or during vacations. And most of the popular destinations such as UK, Australia, Canada, US, they also offer post-study work opportunities, and this can range from 1 year to up to 5 years. So during this time, students can stay back in the country and they can either look for work or they can work full-time. So they don't necessarily have to depend on the 3 years, 4 years of their study to look for work. So they get this additional time to stay back and look for work and even work. So a lot of these universities and in countries also offer a number of scholarships, and these scholarships can range from anything from $1,000 to even full fee scholarships in some countries. Of course, these scholarships are either need based or on the basis of merit. The higher the scholarship, I mean, of course, it's competitive to get that scholarship, but yes, it can be an achievable thing. And there are different organizations that offer scholarships for international students. You can get scholarships from Indian organizations. You can get scholarships from their local government organizations. Even universities have a lot of aid to offer. So scholarships can be looked at from different perspectives and from different sources as well. Studying overseas also offer a good networking opportunity for students. So, I mean, there are students coming from over 190 countries to study at these universities. So students get to interact with people from other countries. They get to study and work with them, get to understand their working style, and and moreover, when they're looking for work opportunities later, they can, of course, leverage this network as well and make it work. And I mean, of course, it's a little bit of an obvious one. When students are they step out of their comfort zone of their homes, it can make them independent when they when they are managing work and study at the same time. They're managing their own finances, they're managing their own chores, so it can make them independent. It is also a known fact that studying in top universities also can put you in the list in the top of employers list, and you can end up getting higher pays. And if students decide to stay back in the country and work there or maybe settle down there, it can also offer a better quality of life. So these are some common facts. So more than 95% students conveyed that they received a confidence boost by studying abroad. Over 87% students said that the education experience provided them with further career benefits. Over 64% of employers give higher priority to international experiences. And over 50% of students were employed or worked during their studies abroad. So what is it that students can study overseas? So there are a number of courses. Like I said, there are over 1,000 courses that students can choose from. But these are some popular courses: business management, economics, political science, psychology, STEM courses. These are some of the most popular courses amongst Indian students when they're looking to go overseas and study. And of course, each of these courses also has further specializations. So for example, within engineering, students can choose electrical, mechanical, chemical, civil from day one itself. They don't have to wait till the third or fourth year to pick up the specializations. They can choose it from year one itself. So these are some of the top destinations that Indian students choose, and also because they are English-speaking countries, so provide some kind of a comfort over there. So it's UK, Canada, Australia, and United States. So with UK, it's a multitude of unique cultures, numerous historical sites, and urban life. So there are about 395 universities and institutions that offer over 50,000 UG and PG level courses. And you'll find about 20 UK universities ranked amongst the top 100 universities in the world. So course durations in UK are slightly shorter as compared to their counterparts. At the bachelor's level, most of the courses will be 3-year courses, but as opposed to 4-year in Canada, US, and Australia. And at the master's level, the courses will be 1 year mostly. So the tuition fees ranges from £12,000 to up to 25,000 pounds per year, which is 12 lakhs to 25 lakhs per year. And living expenses will be 11 lakhs to 15 lakhs per year, depending on where you stay. If it is London, it's going to be in the range of 15 lakhs, whereas if it's outside of London, it can be closer to 11 lakhs per year. So some of the top courses in UK are business management, engineering, law, economics, political science, and there are 2 intakes for UK. So the biggest intake or maximum universities start in September. All the courses start in September in all the universities. But some of the universities also offer few courses in January. These are mostly at postgraduate level, with an exception of just 1 or 2 universities offering at undergrad level as well in January. Admission requirements in UK universities is mostly on the basis of academic scores. So the top ranked universities will be looking at somewhere around 85 to 95% in 12th grade. And at the master's level, it has to be 65% plus for top universities. And I mean, needless to say, of course, if someone has lower than 90% as well, or 85% as well, there are university options for them too. And English language proficiency is required, while a lot of universities in UK tend to waive it off depending on other criterias, but English tests can be required. And for some of the professional courses like law, medicine, additional admission tests are also required. UK universities also offer partial scholarships at the bachelor's level, and at the master's level, there are both partial and full fee scholarships as well. In UK, students can work 20 hours per week as part-time work, and 40 hours during vacation time. And a lot of courses at both undergrad and postgrad level offer placement year, which is one entire year of work in the industry, which is similar to how internships are in India. Internships tend to be shorter in duration, but this placement year is usually one entire year. So the benefit of this kind of a program would be the students come back with experience. They also gain practical exposure, and they increase their chances of employability on the completion of their courses as well. So post-study work, UK offers 2 years post-study work opportunity if they have once they've completed their degree level course. So Canada, there are about 97 public universities that offer over 15,000 courses. The courses in course duration in Canada tend to be 4 years for bachelor's level and up to 2 years for master's level. The tuition fee for Canadian universities will be 30,000 Canadian dollars per year, and living expenses will be in the range of 15,000 to 20,000 dollars a year. Top courses are computer science, business management, hospitality, health sciences. And they also have, just like UK, they also have 2 intakes in a year, September and January. Admission requirements are again similar to that of UK, with good entire emphasis on academic scores, plus English proficiency, and some admission tests for professional courses as well. Scholarships are available, both full-time and full scholarship and partial scholarships for Canadian universities. And just as UK Canada also allows students to work 20 hours part-time, and they also offer placement years which are called co-op programs at the undergraduate level and even at the master's level actually. And they offer up to 18 months of post-study work opportunity on completion of their courses. So for Australia, Australia has about 43 universities, and they offer up to 22,000 courses at undergraduate level. And 8 of those universities, also known as the Group of 8, they are ranked amongst top 100 universities in the world. The undergraduate course durations in Australia will be 3 to 4 years. And at the postgraduate level, it will be 1 to 2 years. The tuition fee ranges from 25,000 Australian dollar to 45,000 Australian dollar, and living expenses will be approximately 20,000 Australian dollar per year. So top courses are accounting, business management, engineering, psychology, and hospitality. And culinary arts is another course which is very popular in Australia. So the main intake in Australia is February, which is the biggest intake where where all universities have all the courses starting, and there is a slightly smaller intake in July as well, but a lot of courses start in July as well in Australia. Again, similar to UK and Canada, academic scores, English language test, and some admission tests for professional courses are the admission requirements. They also offer partial and full fee scholarships. And while in Australia, students can work up to 48 hours every 15 days as part-time work. And they offer up to 2 to 4 years of post-study work visa. So US has over 4,000 universities and institutions and over 2 million courses. And there are about 27 universities that are ranked amongst top 100 universities in the world. The bachelor's level courses in US tend to be 4 years, and master's level courses tend to be 2 years. The fee of the universities, of the state universities, tend to be $40,000 to $60,000, and slightly higher for private universities. Living expenses can be anything from $15,000 a year to $20,000 a year. And top courses are computer science, business management, engineering, health sciences, and liberal arts. The courses in US start in August and January. Admission requirements are good academic scores, English language scores, either SATs or ACTs, and GMAT or GRE at the postgraduate level. So there are a number of scholarships that universities offer. They can be need-based scholarship, they can be merit scholarships, so quite a few. And while in US, students can work 20 hours per week part-time, and they also offer co-op or placement years in the courses. And after they complete the course, students can stay back 1 year to look for work. So that's it for now. So do you have any questions?
Wow, great, Shipra. I think this was a lot of insight. We got to know about lot many destinations, lot many courses. But I had a few questions in my mind, which I would definitely like to ask. Generally, we are facing these questions from the parents as an educator. So first of all, we are having lot many, you see, offerings. But for a student, what exactly is the right time when to start? I mean, how and where must one start for overseas journeys? What should be the course?
Well, it really depends whether the student is looking at an undergraduate level course or a postgraduate level course. If a student is looking at an undergraduate level course, I think an ideal time to start is grade 9th, because again, depending on the country that they are interested in, it starting in grade 9th gives them a lot of time to prepare it. There's a lot of profile building that is required for a number of countries. So starting in grade 9th gives them that opportunity to do the right things, to participate in the right kind of activities and everything. Needless to say, if someone hasn't started in grade 9th, I mean, starting even in 11th or 12th can also work, but then it limits them, it limits us on, how, what all can we do towards profile building. So this is for the undergraduate students. As for postgraduate students, it's usually a good idea to start whilst they are in their first year, at least to start thinking of what is it that they would like to do. So if there are any additional activities, internships that, or anything in particular that they should be doing while they're doing their bachelor's to prepare for their master's admissions, I think year 1 is a good time to start. But of course, I mean, most students usually end up coming over in while they are, towards the end of their second year. But again, like I said, it leaves little time for them to do any kind of profile building work or something like that.
Okay, fine.
So that is just enough time to shortlist universities and, identify courses and so on.
Great, fine. So we are getting a lot of information about various destinations. So how can a student in the early phase actually can decide about the destination, which particular Canada, USA, UK, everything seems to be fantastic. So where to go? What should be the selection criteria for a student or maybe for a parent?
Okay, so I think, there are different points that parents and the student need to consider, right? So of course, budget is first and foremost, I would say, right? It plays a very important role because the overall cost in each of these countries can, vary greatly, right? So for example, in US, I mean, students can be looking at spending anything from 80 lakhs a year to I mean to 60, from 60 lakhs a year to 80 lakhs a year, right? So and whereas if the budget is limited, then there are countries to look at for that as well. There are some great options in Europe, some top universities, top 100, universities that are there in top 100 universities. So, and I mean, their students can do it within about 20 lakhs a year, 25 lakhs a year as well. So I think budget plays a very important role. Then, of course, I mean, when student is looking to go overseas and study, spend that time, spend that money, I always recommend students to look at top universities, right? So I think that's a very important factor as well. Always look at countries which has the top universities, and also where the course you are interested in pursuing, where there are opportunities for that course. So for example, I mean, say studying maybe artificial intelligence or IT or engineering related courses in US or in Canada will be a great option because there are really great opportunities afterwards. Or as or maybe studying law in UK could be a really great option because of because it's common law. So the law is directly linked, and number of universities are directly recognized by the Bar Council of India as well. So I think the course that you select also plays a very important factor. And then there are, I think work opportunities, whether the student would like to stay back in the country, work a few years before coming back to India, whether they would like to settle down, whether they are interested in research, they are interested in, so I think taking that into consideration as well is, can also lead you to the right study destination. And then what kind of a student life would the student like to experience, right? So whether they want an environment where it's extremely competitive, whether they thrive in that kind of an environment, or they want a little bit of a relaxed environment where they get to enjoy the student life, yet get to study, or something like that. I think that can also lead the student to the right destination.
Perfect, perfect. I think parents must have got the broader idea. There can be multiple factors which will decide the destination, and once the course is decided. So, you threw a lot
Yeah.
of light
I mean,
on,
these are just few.
yeah, anybody? So one thing I wanted to ask Shipra, so what exactly is the admission process for going overseas? So only the
Um,
academic performance, the examination.
okay, so I mean, of course, the first step is definitely to select the right destination, right? It can be one destination or multiple destinations at the first stage, and then identifying the right courses, universities, and then taking the required tests. So, I mean, for example, if identifying whether the universities that you're applying to, they require English language test, or if you're applying to US, you need to take SATs or ACTs. So taking the right tests, then working on, I mean, preparing for the application, then which will include working on essays, getting your documents together, filling out application forms, and tracking and keeping a record of, the scholarships and scholarship deadlines. So because that's a very important factor as well, and a lot of students tend to miss that out. And then that's the stage where, once you've submitted the application, a few weeks later, the admissions begin to come in, either in the form of conditional or unconditional offers. So accepting offers, making enrollment deposits, and applying for accommodations, then applying for visa. Preparing for visa is another whole step altogether, because each country has their own visa requirements, and they would need a lot of prep for preparing the finances in the right order to be able to apply for the visa.
Okay, so listening to this all, it seems as if the role of counselor is really evident. I'll come to this question, Shipra. But before that, as heard a lot about UC-IB curriculum. So I just want to ask, for admission process, is there any significant difference if student is doing his class 11, 12, 9, 10 from ICSE board, IGCSE board, maybe CBSE or IB? Does IB really imposes some special preferences? So what is that all about?
Okay, so I think that's I keep getting asked that question quite a lot, and I think it's more like a marketing gimmick that IB schools are using. That IB is preferred. If you're looking to study overseas, you should go for IB. But believe me, I'm yet to see an overseas university which does not accept CBSE. Maybe 7-8 years back, there were a couple which gave preference to IB over CBSE, but as of today, there are no universities that will not accept CBSE or ICSE grades, right? And in my opinion, sometimes scoring in IB is more difficult than scoring in CBSE or ICSE. And at the end of the day, if you're looking at admissions in these universities, scores are of utmost importance. I mean, universities expect you to, top universities will expect you to score anything from 90 to 95%. So an equivalent of that in IB is like about 38 points. Scoring 38 points in IB is extremely difficult as compared to scoring 90 to 95% in CBSE or ICSE. So, so to answer your question, no, that I haven't seen any, difference in acceptability of either of those two curriculums. Universities will accept one or the other, either ways.
Oh my God, truly a big insight, because most of us, even though we are into education, we do believe that if we want to send our child to abroad, maybe Ivy League, maybe good universities, IB curriculum is a must. But definitely, you are choosing a better path, CBSE, much easier. So this is an important insight, Shipra. Thank you so much for sharing this. One more thing I just wanted to ask, that you were talking about some entrance tests, like USA, you were talking about SAT, and you were talking about some exemptions also. So can you just please make those clear, for particular which board, maybe what is the exact need for exempting those tests, and what exactly is the requirement, first of all?
Okay, so the entrance tests, it depends which country you're looking at. For example, if you're looking at US at the undergrad level, students would need SATs, right? While some universities have started exempting SATs as well, but for top universities, it's always a good idea to have SATs, right? So, and English language test, either IELTS or TOEFL, it's a basic English proficiency test. So either of the two, a student is looking at postgraduate options, but at the postgrad level, it's either GMAT or GRE. So these are the tests that are, kind of a prerequisite for admissions at postgrad. But for UK, there are no entrance exams required, so to say. But if you've already taken SATs or ACTs, you can add them to your application. It just adds a little bit, it makes your application stronger, but the admission is not on the basis of these tests. And English proficiency, a lot of universities waive off English language test based on how much a student has scored in their 12th English grades. For example, if a student has 85% in 12th English, CBSE English, the universities will waive off IELTS or TOEFL for them.
Okay, great. So meanwhile, I would request everyone, if you have some questions, you can please post in the chat box. Maybe you can unmute yourself. We are still left with some time. One last question, Shipra. As a counselor, how do you are into this, you see, field since last more than, I would say, almost 2 decades. So as a counselor, what exactly is the role you feel important, and why should one go to a counselor? What all services do you provide which makes a real difference?
Okay. So I think, I mean, a student can very well, apply to universities themselves if they're absolutely clear. But I think the role that a counselor plays is also important because, first off, it's the counselor's job to keep a track of, the applications, what's happening, what are the changes in admission policies and everything. So a counselor is better equipped and more updated, and there are always more interactions with universities admission offices as well. So I believe a counselor is well equipped to guide you through different aspects of the entire journey. So I mean, for us, we provide guidance on with what career to choose. Like I said, we can start as early as grade 9. Sometimes students are absolutely confused as to what is the career that they should be looking at. So we can start that early. We can provide guidance on that. Then we work on assessing a student's profile and helping them identify what are the gaps, what is it that they need to do to target a certain university or a certain country. So we help them identify those gaps. We guide them as to what kind of internships, what kind of activities they should be participating in, and whether they should be giving any additional tests. For example, if they need to take any advanced placement test, APs or something like that. So those are additional. That is profile building, which we can help with. And then depending on what are the requirements of a student and his parents, we can help identify the right destination, right courses, right universities. Then we also help with what tests to take and how to take them, and so on. And we also have test preparation also as well. And then we help students prepare the documents with the app for the applications, prepare them if they are applying for courses within art and design or performing arts or creative writing, where they are required to provide some kind of a portfolio or written work. Then we help them with preparation of the portfolio as well. Then we help them prepare for the interview for admission. Then we can help them with application process, and then keep a track and track their applications, track scholarships, and then guide them on what accommodations to apply for, and visa applications, education loans, and then right before they are leaving, then we can also give them all pre-departure information as well. And actually, not just that. So a lot of students come back to us for post-arrival guidance as well, with number of things. I often find myself talking to students about how to look for jobs while they're there. So yeah, I mean, I'm usually attached to students not just for a year, multiple years at in cases.
My God, my God. Really fantastic. So your job starts since the beginning until even bacha reaches there still,
Yeah.
matlab once he comes back or even throughout his life, we can say. That's really great, amazing. And I'm getting a few questions, Shipra, in the chat box. Payushi wants to ask, can you please suggest that which country, particularly for architectural course, if we just want to suggest, she wants to pursue for architect, so which country should she decide to go?
Is it at undergrad level? Is it at postgrad
Yes,
level?
yes, for undergrad. For undergrad.
Undergrad. So, I mean, of course, UK is a popular destination. If you could also be looking at Australia, but it also depends on what is it that the student has, what kind of profile, and what, like I've mentioned in the presentation and earlier as well. So, what are the personal criterias? I mean, particularly for the course, UK and Australia can be a good option. I wouldn't suggest, and some of the European countries as well. I wouldn't necessarily suggest US at this stage, because you would need to do like a 4-year degree first and then go on to architecture program, which increases the duration of the entire course. But yes, I think UK and Australia could be great options.
Great, great. Thank you. One more question. How difficult is this exam, IELTS or maybe TOEFL? Because if I am studying in IB, definitely I am exempted for these two. So isn't it, one wants to ask, isn't it good to take admission in class 11? Yeah.
I don't think IELTS or TOEFL exams are very difficult. It's a matter of making yourself familiar with the test pattern and just practicing. I usually tell my students to practice for the test a few times, take mock exams a couple of times, and then see whether they need to take the coaching or not. But if a student is already studying maybe in a CBSE or IB curriculum and is doing decently well in English, they are pretty much and kids today, they watch English shows, they talk in English, and so I think
Yes,
it's a general proficiency where the test assesses you on 4 parameters: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. In my experience, students usually face a challenge with writing. Otherwise, I think the other 3 aspects, it's pretty easy to crack. But with a little bit practice, a little bit guidance, even writing
yes.
can be, pulled through rather smoothly.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Even I have been doing this since last 3, 4 years, since the time we have collaborated. So Pragati Path is definitely going to take care of all these preparation part, which is SAT preparation. IELTS and TOEFL, I have found that at this level, students are really able to
Yeah.
UC. Just in 20 days time, they're able to UC, appear for a few mock tests and they can crack it. So absolutely no worries for these two tests.
Yeah.
And now I would request audience to please come forward if you have some query. You can please unmute yourself. We are here for 5-10 more minutes. So I believe there is no query, and I personally found this session really great session. This was really a big insight. Valuable guidance with practical aspect. You have touched so many practical aspects which will definitely make the journey easy. So I am here. We are here for 5 more minutes, I believe, Shipra. If somebody has query, we can just stay here and then we will
No
wind up
problem.
this.
The session was quite insightful, Shipra. Thank you for that. And my
Thank-
question is that I heard that there are few university outside where tuition fees is zero. So if you can guide us on that as well.
Well, tuition fee won't be zero. I mean, there are countries in Europe which have very small tuition fee as compared to, you know, the ones we are used to hearing from US, UK, and so on. There are countries, but I mean, even there, you are expected to pay around 3,000 euros to 5,000 euros as tuition fee. So it's more subsidized, and these will mostly be public universities. These will not be private universities. So I mean, there are universities in Germany, there are universities in France, Italy that will have these subsidized fees. But zero fee is only possible if you get a scholarship, a full fee scholarship from any of the universities. Only then zero fee is possible. But entirely free education is not offered to international students.
Got it. Thank you.
Particularly for the scholarship part, Shipra, I really find that counselors are really useful, because as a parent, as a layman, we are really not aware, and later once we are aware, that is actually late. Hai na? So I think a very good question from Monica, and you have aptly answered. So anything else? So let me just convey my thanks to Shipra. Thank you so much, Shipra, for your valuable time and guidance. Thank you. Thanks
Thank you.
everyone for joining. Bye bye. See you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.